Good evening, everyone. This is Tara Hill, coming to you live from the Channel 4 News here in Charlotte, where there have been reports of complete incompetence with the miners on this site.
Remind me when I say on the count of 3, start with 1 and not 3. Oh, well, you sure are a pretty thing. You single? Excuse me, ma'am. Is this guy bothering you? All right, why don't you just come with me?
Sorry, whatever your name is, I'm taken.
It's okay, mister.
Gee, thanks, little fella. Come on, Norm. You know daggone well you didn't stand a shot with a Tar Heel.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel. And in this huddle, baby, we're going to talk about my North Carolina Tar Heels taking on the Charlotte 49ers in Carolina's home opener at Kenan Stadium. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of this thing, man, if this is your first time visiting the channel, you make sure, please, that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. Every week we do a little skit, and we do a breakdown of the North Carolina Tar Heels football opponent. There's plenty of content coming out all throughout the week. We got the weekly call-in show. Last week, it was $100 if you predicted the correct score. Nobody did. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw an extra $25 on it per week every time we don't get the score predicted correctly. So you call in. This week, you predict the correct score of the Charlotte, North Carolina game. You get $125 that I'm going to stink and send to you. And we just have a really good time as a Tar Heel family and a college football community. You don't have to be a Tar Heel to call in. You can be a fan of any team. I don't care if you're a Charlotte fan, North Carolina fan, another ACC fan. Call into the show, man. We'll have a good time. It'll be a good chance to win some money, man. And consider becoming a member if you're already subscribed to the channel of the Huddle Hooligans. Just released a Discord exclusive for the members in a new series called Planting the Flag. It's a little bit closer to my thoughts on the state of the football program and basketball program when basketball comes around. What is it? It's like $3.99 a month, man. So, you know, you can do your boy a big favor. You support me, Russ the Tar Heel, the growth of the channel, and the Tar Heel Huddle Nation. And now, back to regularly scheduled programming. Charlotte visits the North Carolina Tar Heels at Kenan Stadium, the most picturesque stadium in all of college football, for the Carolina home opener at 3:30 p.m. on the ACC network. Now, Charlotte and UNC have never met on the football field, partially because their game scheduled in September of 2020 was canceled during the COVID year. Now, interesting stats about the 49ers football team is that the program reinstated itself back in 2013 and is part of the American Conference. The 49ers team colors are green, gold, black, and white. Not even close to as cool as Carolina blue and white. And their all-time record is 45-95 as a program. Now, there will be some very familiar faces on this side of the football as Dre Bly, Tim Cross, their defensive analyst for the University of Charlotte, North Carolina, Charlotte. Tim Brewster, well, he's an associate head coach and tight ends coach at Charlotte as well. Then you have former Tar Heel safety Jaquarius Conley, former wide receiver Justin Olson, and don't forget about former Tar Heel defensive back Dante Balfour. He will be out there at the corner position. Now, Charlotte hosted James Madison last week for their home opener, and they took an L 30-7. The 49ers were only down 9-7 at the half, but JMU scored 21 unanswered points after the break to bust things wide open. Now, Charlotte had 324 yards of total offense. That's 193 yards passing and 131 yards rushing to JMU's 417 yards of total offense. The 49ers are led by sophomore quarterback Max Brown, who threw for those 193 yards. He had 1 touchdown against 2 interceptions. And it's interesting to note that Max Brown is a transfer from the University of Florida. Now, Charlotte's leading rusher is sophomore Teron Kelman, who rushed for 76 yards on 9 carries. And their leading receiver is 6'4", 210-pound senior Sean Brown, who caught 6 passes for 70 yards. Now, all 5 starting 2023 offensive linemen from the 2023 season, obviously, have been replaced. Now, you got transfers Jordan Moko from Texas A&M and Jordan Herman from Florida, who will hopefully bolster that offensive line if you're a Charlotte fan. The Charlotte defense is also loaded with transfer guys from Power 4 conferences as well, so they should be better defensively than last year's team. Defensive tackles Dre Butler from Michigan State and Dre Martin from South Carolina have transferred in to beef up that interior defensive line. And then you have Jadeveon Clowney's cousin, Demond, who made 33 tackles with 2.5 sacks. It should also be noted that second-year coach Biff Poggi said he had 8 to 9 starters out for the James Madison game, and it would take them approximately 3 weeks for the 49ers to get back to full strength. But we're uncertain of when some of those players are going to return. On the other side of the football, North Carolina will attempt to move on after hearing starting quarterback Max Johnson will miss the remainder of the football season due to an unfortunate broken leg. In steps redshirt sophomore Connor Harrell to run the Tar Heel offense and lead North Carolina for the remainder of the season. Now, Connor will look to establish some sort of consistent passing game, as the Heels were only able to throw for 105 yards against the Gophers in week 1. Now, some of that was scheme, right? Some of that was quarterback play, and some of that was receivers dropping passes. All-American junior running back Omarion Hampton, he'll look to build on his hard hat effort in week 1, where he rushed for 129 yards on 30 carries, and he earned like 92, 93 of that after contact. And then the defense will look to build on their impressive start to the season while allowing less than 250 yards of total offense on the road. So let's go ahead and get into the 3 keys to victory for each team. And we'll start with Charlotte. Charlotte's number 1 key to victory is numbers in the box. Despite the 49ers roster being filled with Power 4 transfers, they are theoretically going to be outmanned in the trenches in this football game. And until North Carolina can prove that they have a downfield passing attack, and I mean a consistent downfield passing attack, I'm doing everything in my power to limit number 28 and make someone else beat me. And yes, that means if I got to drop 8, 9 people in the box and make sure that number 15 can handle his business, that's exactly what I'm going to do as a defensive coordinator. Number 2, generate big plays on offense. If you can somehow connect on splash plays, you can possibly make this UNC football team play a little bit out of character. From what we observed last week, this is not necessarily a strike-quick offense. And if you can put the Heels in an early hole, it may just be what's needed to make them have to abandon the run. And number 3, you got to have big special teams plays. UNC has not been particularly stellar in this phase of the game, aside from their field goal kicking unit. Now, they did look to have improved some in the Minnesota game, But if you're going to knock off a P4 team at their house, it's very often that you have to generate some sort of points on special teams, whether that be a kick or a punt return for a touchdown or a blocked field goal that just completely changes the football game. And now for the North Carolina Tar Heels keys to the game. Number one, attack on offense, man. I completely agree with Coach Mack Brown, what he said, that the Heels are focusing on each specific opponent on that given week. They're no longer looking ahead, or they're not going to try to play down to their competition. But I also believe this is one of those games where we legitimately need to find out what this offense's capabilities truly are. And that starts with testing number 15. I am treating this football game as if I have absolute confidence in this young man. I'm not calling plays trying to protect him at all. I need to know your capabilities. Carolina needs to attempt no less than 30 passes in this football game. We got to know what Connor Harrell can do moving forward. Number two, Hampton and Barlow, man. When you're not slinging the ball around, testing your new quarterback one's abilities, you need to feed the horses. O'Marion should have at least 2 touchdown rushes in this football game, right? And I need Darwin Barlow to also have 8 to 10 carries as well. We have got to start getting somebody, an RB2, up to par just in case, man, right? O'Marion Hampton cannot have 30 carries a game, 35 touches, as much as I would love to see it. And I know that he's built different. It's not sustainable for the long run. So we got to get Darwin Barlow in there. We got to get him some touches, get him downhill. But I want heavy O'Marion Hampton in the red zone. And number 3, turnovers. Max Brown threw 2 interceptions against JMU. And with this front 7 in the secondary that we have on the back end, force some stinking turnovers, man, and get the ball back into your offense's hands as often as possible to continue working on the offensive side of the football. We played tough against Minnesota. Let's generate a few turnovers against Charlotte. So with all that in mind, let's get into the prediction portion of the show. And before I give you my personal thoughts on this football game, I always like to pull up the ESPN matchup indicator, which gives the Heels a 91.3% chance of beating Charlotte at the time of this video. And they are currently listed as 22-point favorites. Now, I think that this spread is a little bit lower than what it might typically be at home against a non-P4 team, because the nation doesn't exactly know what to expect from this offense, especially with Max Johnson gone. And here's the simple fact of the matter. Neither do I. I watched Connor go 2 for 4 with a swing pass out to O'Marion and an RPO that was wide open. It was a great read, and that is great. But I sure would feel much more comfortable to see him make some throws like he made in the spring game and even back in the bowl game against West Virginia in the second half, in an actual football game. But I still think that North Carolina is much too talented for this 49ers football team. And I still have hopes that Carolina is going to solve this quarterback situation, and we're going to take advantage of all the talent that is still on this roster. I'm going to take the North Carolina Tar Heels 38, Charlotte 13, because my personal belief is that Carolina is still going to be much too talented in the trenches for this 49ers team. And it comes back to O'Marion Hampton and maybe even Darwin Barlow gashing Charlotte behind that massive offensive line. But we already know we should be capable of doing that against this stinking team. Now, my biggest fear, aside from somehow dropping this football game, is to come out of here not knowing anything more about our ability to push the ball down the field. We got to get Connor outside and let him work. I don't want to leave this football game without having either a warm and fuzzy or serious concerns. I need to know. I need to know, Tar Heel Nation, warm and fuzzy or serious concerns. I'd rather know than kind of be in this gray area where I'm still not sure, and then we get into Duke, Pitt, Georgia Tech, and then we find out. So I'm treating this almost like a preseason game. I'm letting him sling it around, and I think that he's going to do a much better job. Carolina 38, Charlotte 13. So you let me know what you think about this score prediction down in the comment section, Tar Heel Nation and college football fans everywhere. Remember, we got the live call-in show this week. Unfortunately, because of work, we're going to do it on Thursday night, 9 p.m. Make sure you tune in. Try to win you $125. Secondly, the game, 3:30, ACC Network. We got the live reaction and watch party. We had a blast against Minnesota, man. You make sure you come back and you hang out with your boy against Charlotte. So, I love you, Tar Heel Nation, and we'll catch you on the next one, baby.